Hello friends, welcome back. Do you have any misconceptions about British people? If you do, you're not alone. In this video lesson, we'll be talking about the top 10 misconceptions people generally have about British people. You will listen to a natural conversation between two native English speakers talking about the top 10 misconceptions people generally have about British people. To help us break down these top 10 misconceptions, I've invited Greg from Ola English to talk to us a little bit about these top 10 misconceptions people generally have about British people. Now, why have I invited Greg? Greg is from the UK. He is a British person. He will speak to us with his lovely British accent and talk to us about these top 10 misconceptions maybe people generally have about people from the UK. This video lesson is great listening practice for you friends. You will hear both the Australian and the British accent. We speak at a natural pace and we break down these top 10 misconceptions. Listen carefully, pay attention to the words, phrases and expressions we use to break down these misconceptions so that you can use them when speaking in English. Before we hear from Greg, I would like to thank our members in the Using English TP classroom. Friends, this video lesson is proudly brought to you thanks to our members in the Using English TP classroom. The Using English TP classroom is an online, virtual, community and classroom teaching you real English. Members in the Using English TP classroom have access to structured lesson sets which improve their grammar, vocabulary, and enable them to improve their level of English. But they are also connecting and communicating through group calls and completing speaking challenges on a regular basis to enable them to become confident and fluent English speakers. Get structure in your English learning, join an online safe community, and start speaking in English with us in the Using English TP classroom. Go to www.usingenglishTP.com, enroll and join us today. Okay, back on topic and let's hear from Greg. Let's talk about those top 10 misconceptions people generally have about British people. Hello Greg, how are you today?
Hi, I'm very well. How are you, Adriana?
Good, thank you. So, where are you from?
I'm from Yorkshire in the north of England.
Ah, north of England. So you're from the UK then?
Yeah, that's right.
You know, us in land down under, we have some stereotypes. So we think of people from the UK in a certain way. Maybe, have you ever heard of any stereotypes about people from the UK?
I've heard a few. I can't say I agree with too many of them. But go on, tell me, what have you heard? You tell me what you've heard and I'll tell you how true they are.
Well, there's many of them, but I'm just joking. But the first one that I've heard quite often is, and I've heard this one also for Australia, but we're talking about the UK here, but that British food is awful.
Awful.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you, I'm from the north of England. I actually live in Spain at the moment. And when I go back home to England, I love the food. It's one of the things I miss about England is the food there. And that's crazy because Spanish people love their food. I mean, you know, they're very proud of their food and food is delicious here. But there's a lot of nice foods in England. It's not all bad, you know, it's not all bad.
Okay, what's your favorite dish? You say, okay, compared to Spain and Britain, maybe for somebody who's watching and they don't have no idea what's a common dish or what can somebody eat when they go to the UK?
My favorite English food is curry.
Curry? Please explain. This doesn't sound very British.
It doesn't, no. It's obviously it's an Indian dish, but it is the most typical or the most common or the most popular dish in England is curry, believe it or not. And every time I go to England, the night I arrive, my parents pick me up from the airport. We go home and we always stop off and get a curry and take it home with us and eat it. It's the most brilliant dish in England. It's not very typically English. We do have typical English dishes as well, like Sunday roast. Have you heard of that?
Yes. One thing living abroad, I really miss, I think you also have this, it's very common in the UK, gravy. Is gravy?
Oh, yes, gravy.
I'm drooling at the moment, gravy.
That's a nice part of your Sunday roast. You've got your meat, you've got your roast beef, usually, Yorkshire puddings, some vegetables, and then you just slosh your gravy all over it.
Yorkshire puddings, sorry, excuse my ignorance, but can you please tell me and those watching, listening, what is this?
It's quite hard to describe, actually. It's the same mixture as if you're making pancakes. Mm-hmm. So it's basically like milk, eggs, flour, but you put it in the oven and in very, very hot oil, and it rises into kind of like a cup shape. So you can put your beef inside this Yorkshire pudding, you can put gravy inside it, and it's spectacular.
Is it like a pastry then, or?
No, it's a savoury dish. It's not a sweet dish. And it's not crumbly like a pastry. It's quite soft. It's like one of the most difficult things to describe in the English language, but it's delicious. If you go to England, basically, I think a lot of people who say that English food is horrible, they've either heard it. I had a conversation with someone once who said, "Oh, English food's terrible, hey?" And I said, "Oh, really? What? Have you been to England?" He said, No. I said, "Oh, okay." But if you go to England, then you're probably, visiting London for a few days. Don't get a cheap sausage on the street if you want a good idea of what English food is about. Go to a nice pub, spend a little bit more than you might want to spend, and that's probably your best chance of getting some nice English food.
Uh-huh. Maybe I'll tell you a little bit of a story, and this goes into the second myth also related to food.
All right.
We were on the Canary Islands for a honeymoon a few years back, me and my husband, and there were a lot of German and tourists from the UK. Every morning we'd go down to breakfast and we'd see people from the UK having bacon and eggs, and also bacon and eggs and baked beans on toast. Now, so people say British food is awful. My husband was like, "Oh, these people, again, bacon and eggs and baked beans, how can they eat this?" So is it, I don't know, we saw that people in the UK are always having this for breakfast. Is this true? Or?
I mean, do you think if English people had bacon and eggs and sausage and baked beans on toast every morning for breakfast, can you imagine how big we would be? I think one of the things is it's really, really typical in hotels. All right, so obviously if you're a foreigner going to England, that's what you have for breakfast, because it's almost only typical in hotels. If you're just a normal person in a normal English house, you have a piece of toast or some cereal, usually cereal and a cup of tea for breakfast, but not bacon and eggs and the full English, as we say, the full English breakfast, which is bacon, eggs, sausage, hash brown, mushroom, baked beans on toast. That's a brilliant breakfast, but come on, for a special occasion like a hotel, or I have one like once a year, usually, an English breakfast.
Well, to be fair, in Australia, it's also very common breakfast. So it's okay. I'll go easy with you on that one. But, another stereotype I have I've never been to the UK personally, but if I imagine that when I go to the UK one day, hopefully soon, then I'll be drinking a lot of tea, and that, people in the UK always drink tea. It's like just part of their ritual. They drink tea all the time. Is this true? Or?
You've got one right. Yeah.
Finally.
Tea. Yeah. Especially when it's cold in the winter, I will normally have a cup of tea. I mean, always in the morning. First thing in the morning, a cup of tea. Also, we can call it a cuppa in English. We don't have to say cup of tea. We shorten it to cuppa. So
We
a
do that
cuppa.
too.
Yeah, you shorten everything. But I have one. A cuppa in the morning. I have a cuppa at about 10 o'clock. I have a cuppa after my lunch. I have a cuppa late afternoon. And usually about 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock cup of tea. So when it's cold in the winter and I'm at home a lot, it's usually 5 cups of tea a day for me.
Wow. What type of tea?
English breakfast tea is what it's known as outside of England. In England, we just call it tea.
Really?
I think that's another. Yeah. And I think I've spoken to a lot of Spanish people who are under the impression that in England we like a lot of different teas.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all these herbal teas. Really, we only usually drink one type of tea in England. If you go down the supermarket aisle in England, you have like a whole aisle which is just different makes of black English breakfast tea, and then a mini section which is different fruity herbal teas, which we're not really interested in that. We just want,
judging from your
English
facial
breakfast
expressions,
tea.
you don't touch those.
No.
But what about Earl Grey?
Earl Grey is, you know what? When I get to a cafe, out and about, I always order Earl Grey, simply because a bad Earl Grey is not as bad as a bad English breakfast tea. And if you have a cup of tea outside of England, it's usually not a great cup of tea. So if you go Earl Grey, you're normally safe. So I have Earl Grey when I'm abroad, and it's a lot less common than English breakfast.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh wow! I don't know. You seem okay. Like you seem like a great person. You seem like happy, friendly, and I think we're having a pretty good conversation now. But I don't know. One thing that I've heard quite often is that from people from the UK, they're generally not friendly.
Not friendly, but I'm okay. Yeah, just okay.
I'm joking. You're fantastic.
I think that stereotype is, again, I think it comes from maybe foreigners who come to England. They spend a few days in a big city like London. If you go to London, nobody's gonna put their arm on your shoulder and say, "Oh, welcome to my country. What can I do for you?" That's not gonna happen. Even in London, they don't really. Well, they're famous really for not speaking to each other on the tube, on the underground in London. But I think once you go outside of the big cities in England, then people are really, really friendly. And, when you get into small towns, people are extremely friendly. Another thing is that we don't kiss each other 2 or 3 or however many times in England. We believe in personal space. If you've just
I can completely relate to this. Please explain. Anybody listening, watching, pay attention.
Yeah. So personal space. If I've just met you, this is my space. If you come in my space, it's not your right. Okay, this is my space. You stay at a distance. At the best, I'm going to put my hand outside of my space, and you can touch my hand. But hey, don't come in my space. So I'm used to it now. I've lived in France. I've lived in Spain. It's completely normal for me when I meet someone that they give you 2 kisses. That's fine. I'm okay with that. But I remember at the beginning when I wasn't used to it, it was a shock. Like, what are you doing? I'm getting kisses from people I don't even know. I thought, wow, I enjoyed it at the beginning. It was a bit of a shock, but it's not the English way. But it doesn't mean that we're not friendly. It doesn't mean that we don't like you. It just means that, shake my hand, stay at a distance, and when I like you, then you can come in my personal space.
This is very similar to in Australia. You explained that really well. Thank you. You said what I was thinking, because Melbourne's also a big city where I'm from, and pretty much it's the same also there. I was really shocked when I moved abroad, and I'm like, invasion of privacy.
Yeah,
We don't know each other that well yet.
yeah, it's just a cultural difference. I mean, for Spanish people, a lot of Europeans, I think it's completely normal to go in, give two kisses, and if you don't do that, if you give your hand, it's like, whoa, you're not nice, you're unfriendly. What's wrong with you? But it's just a cultural difference. But we're still nice people, even though we don't go giving kisses to everybody.
But also, do you think that maybe this unfriendly term or this myth maybe comes from the fact that a lot of people actually think that, I don't know, you all love the Queen, so that...
No, I think that's maybe a myth. I mean, maybe it's a generational thing as well. I have the impression that people of my parents or even grandparents' generation absolutely idolized the Queen. I mean, she was just, bow down to the Queen. She was number one. I mean, I think our generation now, a lot of people like the fact that we have a royal family. Some people don't care, and some people hate the fact that we have a royal family and believe we could happily live without it. But I don't know. I think I fall into the middle category. I like the fact that we have a royal family, but if the Queen was, down the street, but Liverpool Football Club were playing down the other side of the street, I think I'd go and watch the football. And also, I think nobody loves the English royal family as much as the Americans.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, why would you say that nobody loves the royal family as much as...
I lived in the States for 3 years, and I don't know, the feeling I got from people I spoke to out there, they were just, I don't know, in love with the Queen, perhaps like people think we are. I think they love the fact that we have a royal family more than we actually do ourselves.
But it is nice. It's history and culture. I think it's nice. Like Buckingham Palace, it brings a level of prestige and just nice history. It dates back a long time as well. So.
Oh yeah, I think also when I was growing up in England, I didn't really think much of it. But when I moved abroad, that's when you realize the good things about your country and those strong cultural aspects about your own country that you can feel a bit proud of, So as a Englishman living abroad, I feel stronger towards the royal family than I did when I lived there when I was a kid.
Okay, but would you say that, like, another myth is that, I don't know, people from the UK speak like the Queen? Would you say that everybody speaks like the Queen?
Nobody. Honestly, the Queen has her own little accent, her own way of speaking that really nobody speaks like that. Nobody. So if you learn the Queen's English, just stop now. Come and follow, Adriana's YouTube channel or mine, and you'll learn a bit more real English than listening to the Queen.
Okay, you would say that nobody then in the UK speaks like the Queen?
Nobody. I've never spoken to anybody in my life ever that speaks like the Queen.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Interesting.
You've got like standard English, you've got Southern English, not Central London, but maybe Southern English, which sounds quite standard, I would say, mainly because it's similar to Cambridge English, which is what you hear quite often in typical BBC shows or for certificate exams, things like that, the Cambridge exams, that's really common. But the Queen's English is just like 1,000 levels of more posh on top of that. It's crazy posh. So no, not entirely a good representation of how we speak.
Going back to people being unfriendly in the UK, do you think that maybe it goes on to the next myth that I have, that maybe people, I'm sorry, I know you've said people are not friendly, but maybe, no, I apologize. I know that you've said that people are friendly, that this myth is completely false. But do you think that maybe people have this idea because another myth I have is that it's always foggy. That, I don't know, people in UK, they seem really happy when it's 20 degrees. Does it rain all the time? Is it always foggy? Like,
Okay, we are happy when it's 20 degrees. That's true. That's like a good summer's day. It's like, hey, 20. We've reached the 20 mark, and it's national news. Hey, we're gonna hit 20 this week. But it's never. I think the foggy. It's always foggy in London. That's a complete myth. That, and I think it comes from years and years and years ago, decades ago, when it was always kind of foggy in London, but it was pollution. It wasn't actually fog. It was a pollution problem that they had back in the, I don't know when, 40s, 50s perhaps. But that's been solved now. It's not like that now. But yeah, the weather isn't, foggy. I have had more foggy days here in Spain than in England. But the weather's poor. It doesn't rain all the time. But I think the worst thing for me is that it rains so much in the summertime. If you have maybe 2 or 3 really nice days in England in the summer, then you're going to pay for that with a couple of rainy days. It's always on and off. It's always unpredictable. You don't have 1, 2, 3 months of sunny summer weather, and that's the annoying thing about the weather.
oh, pity. I couldn't imagine living 20 degrees. Now we're recording this in February. I think a month ago it was almost 19 degrees in winter in Croatia. So that would have been like summer for the UK.
Yeah. I mean, you can, I'm from the north of England. In the south, it's about 3 degrees warmer, almost always. But even so, a nice summer's day, 24 perhaps, is, well, good stuff. And every now and then, every 2 or 3 years, we'll get 30, 32 degrees. It'll be, people, the country will stop working. People will just stop living. It'll just be too hot for the country to survive.
Wow, 32.
Seriously. Yeah.
Interesting. The last myth I have is that, well, actually, from what I've seen is, I'd really love to hear your opinion on this one, but that it's really expensive in the UK.
From a tourist point of view, I can see why people think that. The obvious things are expensive. So if you're a foreigner coming to England, since the Brexit thing happened, then everything's, the euro's got strong, the pound's got weaker, everything's cheaper. But before that happened, you visit in London, you're going to buy some food, you're going to have a pint of beer, you're going to go on public transport, get a hotel, that kind of thing. And all that kind of stuff is expensive. It is the obvious stuff. The thing is, it is a little bit of a myth, because if you compare it to, let's compare it to Spain, for example. That's what I know best, because that's where I'm living now. House wages are a lot higher in England than they are in Spain. But things like housing, if you want to buy a house in England, it's not that much. It's not that much more expensive than if you want to buy a house in Spain. So the big things are not proportionally as expensive as in other countries, but wages are higher, and that compensates a lot for us. So, and if you're a foreigner visiting England, there are ways to get around that expensive feeling. This, go to a Wetherspoons, get a cheap pint of beer, get a hostel, get a cheap hostel, Airbnb, whatever. You can live cheap if you want in England.
Interesting. Okay, to finish up with, if anybody watching, listening, even for me, if I decide to go to the UK tomorrow, what tip do you have? Where should I visit? What should I do? Do you have like an ultimate suggestion for me and for anybody else?
Yeah, I do. If you, I always suggest people go to Canterbury. Actually, that's where I studied at university, and it's about a 1-hour train journey from London. And London's cool. Everyone knows London. It's famous. You've got a lot of famous sights to see, but for me, it's not really the most beautiful thing of England. What I love about England is the really old Roman cities like Canterbury, like Cambridge, York. That's what I love. So, and yeah, with Canterbury or Cambridge, Oxford, they're fairly easy to get to as well from London. But Canterbury is my personal favourite. That's where I studied, and I think it's a beautiful, beautiful city, and it's a bit more, real England than it is in London. People might even be friendly to you in Canterbury.
Well done, friends. You've finished listening to the natural conversation between Greg and myself. If you struggle to follow the conversation, make sure to watch the video lesson one more time, but this time turn on subtitles, only English subtitles, and try to follow the conversation with subtitles. Friends, at the end of the conversation, I asked Greg what recommendations he has for me if I were to visit the UK tomorrow. I would love to hear from you. Would you like to go to the UK? And if you were to go to the UK, what would you do there? Join the discussion in the comments below and tell me, would you like to go to the UK? And if you were to go to the UK, what would you do in the UK? Would you go sightseeing? Would you go to a restaurant? What cities would you go to? Add in as much detail and tell me what you would do if you would go to the UK. Friends, there's also a second part, more listening practice you can use to improve your level of English over on Greg's YouTube channel. Go and watch that video lesson and learn about some misconceptions people generally have about Australia and Australians. Remember friends, if you like this video lesson, make sure to like it, subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you receive the latest lessons I post here to improve your level of English, and be a good friend and share this video with a friend learning English. Thank you for watching, thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the discussion in the comments below this video. Bye for now.